What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of Pistons Daily, where you can find daily content covering all things Detroit Pistons every single day. My name's Kyle Garrison. I'm your host. I'm over on Twitter at Kyle Garrison2, where I talk all things Detroit sports. So head over there, give me comments, questions, concerns, episode ideas. I'd love to hear from all you guys. Also, shout out to everyone who tunes in every single day. The support on the channel has been unbelievable, so I greatly appreciate it. Also, if you guys head over to Spotify, we are up and running over there, so give a follow, give a review. We're trying to expand across all platforms, so if you can give some love on the Spotify, that would be much appreciated. But with that being said, let's jump right into today's video. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is Ausar Thompson. So Trajan Langdon came out and had some comments about how Ausar Thompson is in the gym, in the weight room, gaining weight, gaining muscle, just getting stronger. And the two reasons I think the front office is prioritizing Ausar gaining some strength is, number one, on offense last year, he shot 432 shots in the paint compared to just 70 shots from elsewhere on the floor. So if you're going to be a 6'7" wing and only be a paint threat, you have to increase your efficiency at the rim. He shot 86% of his shots in the paint, and he shot 59% at the rim last year, which is solid. But if you're not very versatile on the offensive end of the floor and you're really only finishing at the rim in a lob threat and somebody who attacks downhill, that 59% has to increase. And in order to do that, I think adding some strength, adding some muscle will help him out. Being able to finish over taller defenders, finish through contact was some stuff we saw him struggle with last year. Sometimes he was out of control. So I think if he can gain some muscle, gain some lower body strength as well, just to give him better footwork and just a better center of gravity, I think that he can start to, gain more balance when he's attacking the rim and just have more success finishing over some of the best rim defenders in the league. And with that, I think we will see an increase in his efficiency. I think we can start to see a 65%, 68% at the rim as the years go on. And as he becomes more comfortable finishing at the rim and being a go-to scorer, then that 2-level and maybe even that 3-level scoring will start to come. Right now, though, they just have to focus on what he knows how to do and what he's the best at so that he can succeed on the floor on both ends. And then the other reason I do think they want him to add some muscle is on the defensive end of the floor. Right now, there is a vacancy at the backup power forward position, and it seems like he is going to be the option there. Obviously, it's not ideal. I personally don't love it. I actually need to see it kind of unfold for me to be okay with it. But if the Pistons don't have a plan in place and they don't have any targets that they want to go get as a backup power forward, then you might be stuck running Ausar Thompson, in that backup power forward role. Obviously, he would still start next to Tobias Harris, but maybe you stagger those minutes. You take out Ausar Thompson around the 5-minute mark or whatever. Tobias goes out with 2 minutes in the first quarter, and then, Ausar Thompson plays another 5 minutes at the power forward or something like that. Personally, I'd much rather see him continue to play the 3, but, if you don't have options and you don't really have a choice, then there is a reason why, Ausar Thompson is gaining some strength and gaining some muscle. I will say a counter argument to those two reasons is I think he needs to gain strength and muscle, but not weight. I don't want him to lose his lateral quickness or his agility or, his jumping ability. I don't want him to lose any of that because that's what makes him a great basketball player is he is just a energizer bunny on the floor, plays an unbelievable style of defense, can guard 1 through 4, is very versatile. So I don't want to see him gain, 20 pounds of weight and lose a step or two. I think that having him guard a guy like Jalen Brunson is just unbelievably valuable for a team who doesn't have great defensive guard depth. Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham are just not great defenders, simply put. So if you can have Ausar Thompson, who you can rely on to guard 1 through 4, like I mentioned, that is going to be very valuable. So don't put on so much weight to where you're slower and you're sluggish going into next year. A little bit of muscle here and there is going to help, but you just have to be careful. And I know the front office is aware of that. They're not dumb. Trajan Langdon's a great basketball mind, so he understands what he's doing. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of Ausar Thompson adding some weight and kind of what you think overall that would do to his game. And then another player I wanted to talk about that is showing some improvement in the offseason is Jalen Duren. And the first thing I want to say is these offseason videos of centers and big men who traditionally struggle with their jump shot, turning into great jump shooters and, have videos of them making 6 threes in a row or whatever. We saw that unfold with Andre Drummond. So we're going to take it all with a grain of salt. And it's all speculation. We're just kind of looking at, oh, he is working on it. If he is able to kind of add that to his bag, what that would do for his game and the team as a whole. And what I think that would happen is if he was able to not develop a 3-point jumper. He's never going to be a 3-point shooter. He could potentially develop a pick and pop ability where he can operate from the high post and the free throw line extended, and instead of when he catches it there having to take a dribble immediately because he's a non-threat to shoot, he can get in a triple threat. He can take a pump fake and shoot over the top, or he can, like I said, drive to the paint, utilize his strength because that's his strong suit is finishing at the rim. But if you add another aspect to his game where he's, maybe a little bit of a floater or a push shot like we see with like Isaiah Hartenstein or somebody like that, just any type of versatility he can add to his game is going to be helpful because he's clearly right now a lob threat and a rebounder. And if you can make him less of an Andre Drummond and more of like a Bam Adebayo, I think that's obviously going to be beneficial in the future, and really just expand the ability for this offense to do different things when he's out there. But again, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not just going to be, Jalen Duren can shoot threes now. He shoots 37% from three now. No, that's not going to happen. He is in a contract year though, so it's kind of smart right now to add that to your bag. And if the front office does see him be able to, catch a pick and pop from the free throw line and take a contested jumper, then that's just going to add value to his game, and they're going to be much more comfortable extending him. So I understand why Jalen Duren's trying to tap that part of his game in, and I really hope it comes to fruition because that could be very dangerous, and would also allow Ausar Thompson and Jalen Duren to play together quite a bit more than what we saw last year. So I think it'd be fun if he added that to his game. I don't expect it to happen next year or even the year after, but at least he is showing improvement with it and showing the willingness to actually work on it. But let me know in the comments or over on Twitter if you think Jalen Duren can add a jumper to his game, or if you just think it's another offseason video that gets our hopes up and eventually leaves us disappointed. I don't think that's going to be the case. But let me know your guys' thoughts. But let's move on to just some talk about the NBA Cup groupings. I don't want to really touch on the NBA Cup at all. I think it's a weird concept. I'm not a huge fan of it by any means, but it does add a little bit more competition to regular season games. Like, I understand why Adam Silver implemented it, but I just want to touch on the 4 teams that are in the Pistons group play. I think last year, if you looked at the Celtics, the 76ers, the Magic, and the Nets, you could comfortably say that the only team the Pistons would have a chance with is the Nets. But now you stack yourself up against these 3 teams, and it's unbelievable just the turnaround the Pistons have, because you can make a case for the Pistons finishing ahead of all 4 of these teams. With the Celtics, losing Jason Tatum is huge, but there's other reasons why they could potentially take a step backwards. You lose Kristaps Porzingis. You lose Jrue Holiday. You're probably going to lose Al Horford. Those 3 guys right there were all massive pieces to their championship run, and they're the success that they've had over the past couple of years. Obviously, Jason Tatum has been as well, but just barring that injury itself, you lose a ton of role players in depth. Granted, I think Jaylen Brown and Derek White are very talented players, but I don't know if they can continue to push them to a 1 and a 2 seed. I think they're going to take a little bit of a step back, so that is somebody that the Pistons could jump and compete with at a higher level than they did last year. I know in the last game against the Celtics, it was completely different than what we've seen against them in the past, but we have seen the Celtics pretty much dominate the Pistons over the past couple of years. So the fact that they're even in the same conversation with one another now is pretty remarkable. You can say the same thing about the 76ers as well. Right now, obviously last year was a struggle for them. Joel Embiid's health is completely up in the air. We have no idea what that's going to look like going forward. But I think this team has a ton of young, intriguing prospects. They just drafted BJ Edgecombe. They drafted Jared McCain last year, who was probably going to be the rookie of the year if he didn't get hurt. Tyrese Maxey still plays at a very high level. Quentin Grimes is very good as well. But you're really kind of backlogged at the guard positions, and then you've got Joel Embiid and Paul George as your center and your power forward, 2 guys that have not been able to stay healthy and are only getting older. So that's another team where obviously the Pistons were better than them last year. They're gonna improve, but the Pistons definitely could be better, and I do see a realistic world where Pistons end up a few seeds higher than the 76ers in the Eastern Conference. And I'm not throwing shade at the Celtics or the 76ers. I think they're both great organizations and they're both great teams, but I just think the Pistons' young core is developing at a quicker rate than the 76ers and the Celtics. Granted, the Pistons really rely on their young core more than those other two teams, but like we've talked about in past videos, it's kind of a nice thing to be able to rely on. Every year your young guys are just getting better and better and better. And then when you look at the Magic, I think they're probably the most intriguing group in this in this bracket play. And that's just because the addition of Desmond Bane, I think, right away makes them an Eastern Conference contender. I don't know if they can win the whole thing, but I do think it really, really improves their roster overall. Desmond Bane has been a Piston killer in the past, so playing against the Magic is going to be really fun. They're a very young, exciting team as well in the Eastern Conference, so I would like to see the Pistons and the Magic kind of create a new rivalry. That would be kind of fun. I know we saw a couple years ago the Killian Hayes and Mo Wagner incident, and then Cole Anthony diving into Jaden Ivey's leg this past year, which myself included, and all the fan base was not very pleased with. So I think it'd be fun to kind of start a new rivalry with the Magic, a young and up and coming team that's showed promise and making the right steps in the right direction. Good coaching staff, good front office. So that could be fun as well. And then I'm not going to talk about the Nets just because it's the Nets, and I think they're probably going to be one of the worst teams in the league next year, barring anything crazy. I don't know. Actually, I thought they were going to be the worst team in the league this past year, and they ended up not being that bad. I mean, they weren't great, but they won more games than a lot of people expected. So the NBA Cup is a very interesting concept. I like that it makes it a little bit more competitive, but I like that they change up the groups each year, kind of give a different look. So I'm excited to see kind of the Pistons and the Magic matchup and the Pistons and the 76ers if they're fully healthy in games like that where it just adds a little bit more of a competitive edge. The courts are different and it's just a little bit more exciting. But let me know what you guys think of the NBA Cup. I always thought it was a really interesting concept. So let me know what you guys think below, if you like it, if you don't like it, if you think it does add a competitive edge, and also what you think of the Pistons group that they just got put into. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on before we wrap things up is Bobby Klintman in just a summer league preview. I think it's going to be really important for Bobby Klintman's development to be a feature piece of this offense in summer league. Especially, I'm assuming Ron Holland won't play every game, so I think Bobby Klintman could really take over as their main offensive weapon. And I'd like to see some of the things he did off ball and some of the things he did as a passer last year. I really like his basketball IQ, his spatial awareness. He identifies mismatches very well, either as a scorer or a passer. So there's a lot of things in his game that are translatable to the NBA level, and I think we're gonna have to see those in the summer league to get confident with his game. And obviously we saw a lot of struggles last year. It was one of his first years playing at high level basketball. At Wake Forest, he only played 1 year and averaged like 5 points a game. So he has not had a ton of experience on it, playing at a very high level, especially in games. So last year it was kind of a shock for him, and he wasn't great by any means. This efficiency was not great. But there was some times where you can see that he is smart. He does have a high basketball IQ. He moves well without the ball. He's a 6'9" guy that has a beautiful, repeatable jump shot. So I don't see him being a rotational piece, but maybe if we see some strides in the summer league, he can be on the roster all year long. And if you have injuries, he can be a plug and play guy. Or if you're looking at Ausar Thompson and having him play the backup power forward minutes isn't just working out, maybe you can slide Bobby Klintman into the rotation. So I'm excited to kind of see how he develops. I'm also really excited to see him play with Chaz Lanier. Both players, as I've watched their film, are very spatially aware. Chaz Lanier moves great off of the ball. Bobby Klintman is a good screen setter. He can pick and pop. And like I said, he identifies mismatches very well, understands the flow of the offense. So I think it'll be really fun to see them kind of work off of each other. I hope we see some pick and rolls, some pick and pops. I hope we see Bobby Klintman handling the ball a little bit, allowing him to run the pick and roll as the screener and as the ball handler, just giving him more experience, and maybe he can become a solid forward in your rotation going forward that provides a little bit more versatility than an Isaiah Stewart or a Tobias Harris or something like that. So I'm excited about Bobby Klintman. And I think it's fun with him because, you're not expecting too much. He was a second-round pick. So, it's not a very high risk, high or low reward. It's pretty low risk, high reward at this point with him. If he ends up working out, great. If he doesn't, it's not the end of the world. But he's going to be somebody that's going to be featured on the team, and they're going to want to get reps. So that'll be somebody to look out for. I'll talk about him more in depth as the week goes on. But for tomorrow's episode, I'm going to dive in way more into Summer League, just talk about that for the entire episode. So stay tuned for that. But that's all I've got for you guys today. As always, let me know in the comments or over on Twitter your thoughts on year 3 Ausar Thompson and some of the expectations you have for him. Also, let me know if you think that Jalen Duren can actually develop a jump shot, or if you think that's just another offseason video to get fans excited. But as always, like, subscribe, comment, turn on post notifications, and follow me on Twitter over at Kyle Garrison 2. Also, head over to Spotify, leave a review, and give me a follow if you can. I would greatly appreciate it. Once again, thank you all so much for tuning in every single day. I can't wait to get into Summer League. It's going to be an absolute blast. I'll watch every game. I'll provide updates, and stay tuned for that. But with that being said, that's going to do it here for episode 19 of Pistons Daily, and I will catch you all next time.